next event, which is also, one of our flagship events. One of our flagship events, there are many flagship events, even the day itself is flagship, will be a panel discussion. And the topic, I'll kind of just introduce the topic a bit, So integration of technology into the insurance sector, and especially, the life and health insurance sector, I think has brought about a big transformation, right? And the transformation is ever pervasive, right from distribution to, fraud control, to claims control, all the way up to, how the entire customer relationship management and everything, is, happening today. And it will keep becoming more and more profound with the adoption of new technologies like AI and others. So this panel is just going to be discussing that. And we have on this panel, and I'll call upon, the moderator first, Mr. John Spence, who's the director of Asian Capital Advisors. Welcome, John. Mr. John Spence is the managing director of Asian Capital Advisors, a firm specializing in the Asian insurance market. His role involves providing strategic advice on a wide range of initiatives, including mergers and acquisitions, partnerships, and insurtechs. He's based in Hong Kong since 2000 and has held several leadership positions across the financial sector. From 2015 to 23, he served as the regional head of M&A and strategy for Generali Asia. Prior to this, John held leadership roles at Keefe, Brewett and Woods, KBW, Macquarie Funds Group, and Manulife Financial. Prior to moving to Hong Kong, John held various roles with Manulife Financial in Canada and Australia, where he worked with National Australia Bank, Colonial Mutual, AMP Society, and KPMG. Welcome, John. Thank you. So now I would call upon, Mr. Abhay Tewari, who's the MD and CEO of Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance. He's coming in, okay. So while he comes in, maybe then I should call in Mr. Satishwar Balakrishnan. Yes. He's the MD and CEO of Aegon Life Insurance, and is also the Chief Executive Officer at Aegon Life. He has successfully led Aegon Life's transformation into a digital-first business. He joined the company in July 2019 as its Chief Financial Officer, having spent over 2 decades in the sector. His extensive experience and thought leadership have played a pivotal role in taking Aegon Life to a higher ground. Prior to this, he has helped build the insurance business at Reliance Life, ICICI Prudential Life, and India First Life. He's a chartered accountant and holds a bachelor's degree from Mumbai University. Welcome, Mr. Satishwar. Our next panelist is Mr. Indraneel Chatterjee. He's the Chief Operating Officer at RenewBuy. Yes. So, Mr. Chatterjee is a co-founder and Chief Operating Officer at RenewBuy. He has been part of RenewBuy's journey from concept to regulatory licensing, tie-up with insurers, and everything in between. They're very important, everything in between. Culminating in the finalized product. Indraneel is an alumnus of Symbiosis Pune. He has over 20 years of experience in the product pricing strategy and sales domain. Prior to RenewBuy, he was associated with PNB MetLife as the Deputy Director in Products and Corporate Affairs, wherein he was heading the product management function and leading the organizational strategy. Welcome, Mr. Indraneel. I will also just quickly introduce Mr. Abhay Tewari. Yes, he's the MD and CEO of Star Union Dai-ichi Life Insurance. He took over as the MD and CEO of Sud Life in 2021, before which he was the Joint President, Corporate and Chief Actuary at the same firm. Sud Life is a tripartite venture between Bank of India, Union Bank, and Dai-ichi Life Insurance Japan. He has more than 25 years of experience in the financial services domain, with dominant part being spent in life insurance. He has held senior leadership positions in the actuarial function at SBI Life Insurance, as well as Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance before coming on board here. At Sud Life, his pragmatic approach and understanding in combining business realities with technical management has resulted in stable growth of the organization and also led to an early break-even in a competitive market. He is a fellow of the Indian Institute of Actuaries, as well as a fellow member of Institute and Faculty of Actuaries UK. He's also a CFA chartered holder from CFA Institute, USA. He has previously served as the Institute of Actuaries of India's chairperson of the Education Committee. Welcome, Mr. Abhay Tewari. And with that, John, I would like to hand over the proceedings to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And welcome to this panel discussion on tech and data and how it impacts on life and health risk. We have a fantastic panel here, well diversified, chartered accountants, actuaries, sales. Is that what you're saying? Fantastic. Well, I think we'll get a whole range of different perspectives. But I want to start off with, Neil, maybe you can help us on the start off here, about what's the objective of using the tech and data? What are we trying to achieve?
I think, John, my perspective is all of us here in the room are primarily solving for one particular thing here in India, and that's driving penetration. Now, if we take the entire ecosystem also into account, all of us know that insurance is largely being consumed by maybe the top 80 to 100 million of the population. And then as you start going down from that layer, you start facing roadblocks. The roadblocks could be in forms of what is available, what know-how is available for them, how can you underwrite them, and even if you are able to underwrite them, how do you finally give them the service for them to experience the product, which is the claims. And I think at different stages, people in this room are all focused on either approaching the customer or solving for the underwriting of the customer or providing them the experience of the product. And that, to my mind, is the primary purpose of what we are sitting here for.
Thank you, Abhay. What do you think?
It's very interesting to see that the whole session also says that what's the relevance of tech and data in life and health risks. So, I would say that penetration is the foremost objective, as Neil mentioned. The technology evolution, if you see, earlier we used to have data, a very limited amount of data, and we used to use that to project what can happen. So statistics was used more to kind of make sense with that limited or very small amount of data and to say that what can happen, can you use your statistical tools to make projections. But now we have a lot of humongous data, and there is a reverse problem of kind of filtering out and understanding what is more important and what is really relevant. So data has kind of exploded. I mean, if you see, and maybe that penetration can be a very important achievement, which we'll perhaps want to make this whole tech platform and data to achieve. But reducing the cost, reducing and making it viable for people to buy. I think sometimes we miss out that why the penetration is not happening. But people are wanting to get it at a lower cost. Maybe those remote areas are not being serviced or easily reached out, and perhaps the cost is happening because there is difficulty in reaching out. So can technology work towards making all this happen at that lower cost so that penetration happens, but at a much lower cost, and with reduced risk, so which is contradictory because you say that, okay, if I am doing so much of assessment, then my cost should go up and the risk, but for that risk assessment, but then can we do it both together? And where the risk is being brought down, the costs are also coming down, and we are still reaching out to people. So I think that should be the real, the success of this whole technology evolution and data mining, which we are doing. I think data is currently being generated, but I feel that making and understanding the patterns from them, making sense out of them and using it for the benefit is what is more required now. I think data capturing is not an issue. The data capturing is happening at every moment. I think, the financial stack, I would say, has evolved a lot. I mean, everything is available. I mean, if you want with one Aadhaar number or PAN number, you can get every information if the client is giving his consent. But maybe the health stack still needs to develop because the financial stack is ready. Maybe health stack can bring that revolution which we are looking for. And that health stack, perhaps again, as I said, the data is already there with the hospitals, with the diagnostic centers, with everybody. But can we share it, make it a common platform, and make it readily available for it to really bring that revolution?
Thank you for that. Shishwa.
So the other word for penetration is actually the opportunity, right? So, and that explains the turnout in this session. And so the way I look at this whole thing, the objective, and in fact, I strongly believe the only way to reach out to the interiors of the country is using tech and data, right? So in a way, tech is a huge enabler, and it makes the overall process across the ecosystem, in the sense across various touch points, much more efficient and at the very same time very effective, right? So that's the objective with which I am looking at. So many more solutions coming in, which helps us kind of reach out to the larger population in the country while keeping the entire process efficient and effective, which basically solves the purpose of reaching out to a larger population, ensuring that the underwriting is much more precise and much more specific, but not making it painful. In the very same way, it also keeps the entire process more affordable, right? So I think that scheme which is running within the entire industry and largely driven by the regulator himself is to make things accessible, affordable, right? And which can happen only if you start using tech.
And where have we been successful to date? Where has tech and data really made a difference?
So a lot of, in fact, if you just remember something which is say just 5 years prior and what we are doing today. So a lot of things has happened on the supply side of it. Okay. Now what do I mean by supply side of it is largely on the risk management perspective, which the insurance or the manufacturers use. So a lot of underwriting developments has happened. A lot of efficiency and effectiveness has been brought in the onboarding process. And I would say a big thanks to the entire India tech stack, which is actually enabling, right? So just as an example, if you remember 5 years back, there was a lot of documentation which was used just to get the KYC done, the simplest of the example, right? Now with digital KYC, in our organization, it's 100% digital only, which means there are no documentation. And when I say no documentation, even scanned images are not allowed, right? Which helps both ways. It's actually making the process much more efficient, but on the very same hand, it's actually making it very effective. Because when the source is a third-party source, you actually don't have to do an additional check of ensuring that the document is a genuine document. So which gives us a lot of comfort, which gives us a lot of confidence, and it actually brings in a much more effective process. So similar things has happened across. So one is, I'm saying, the similar is what has happened on the financial underwriting side. So various ecosystems, and you would have seen a lot of service providers on those lines, right? So all of them coming together, there is a lot of hard work which is happening on the back end, but from a customer perspective and from a manufacturer perspective, that's giving us a lot of comfort in terms of the way underwriting itself is done.
So Neil, is it more the back office? Is there anything happening, success at the front office?
So, John, I wouldn't differentiate between back office or front office. I'd probably put all of it together because from a consumer standpoint, it really doesn't matter. When we started our journey, we also started from the large cities where documentation was clear, enough information was available to provide to the insurers, where we as a distributors were providing all these documents to the insurers. But as we progressed in our journey, we realized that as you go into tier 3, 4, and smaller cities, the quality of documentation has started, dwindling down. So we started to, then during the course, of course, the India stack started developing. So KYCs, et cetera, became easier. But you still had challenges on health documentation. And as Abhay was mentioning, you want to provide it at a cheaper cost. But if you do extensive medicals, it defeats the purposes. That's where we started our underwriting unit, where we said that we will build a tool which will customize basis an insurer's requirements and be able to predict basis what is available at that point in time. For example, we are using, let's say, a video scan to be able to predict health vitals. So we can possibly predict the age of the person, whether the person is a smoker or non-smoker, and you bake that in with what is available in the ecosystem data. So you have COVID data, sanitation data, some environmental data in the PIN code that the customer is residing in. You marry it with his health vitals and come to a predictive score to say that whether you should insure the person or reject the case. But all of it is happening in the same session, and you should be able to produce the risk score such that the policy can be issued on the spot, because you cannot reach the customer twice. It's too expensive to do that. It just defeats the whole purpose. So the back office and the front office are merging together such that the fulfillment for the consumer is happening on the spot, is providing a seamless experience, and all of it is happening on a platform that does not consume fixed costs, because the moment you have fixed costs at lower ticket sizes, the business doesn't make sense. So that's the entire conundrum of the riddle that all of us are solving for here.
So the quality of the onboarding and then the underwriting, then the issuance, you see some big changes.
All of it is seamless.
Or seamless. What's happening in your banking channels, Abby? How is technology being applied for you and your partners?
I would come to the sales, and the ease of onboarding. I will start with that. I mean, as Neil mentioned, even Satishwar, same, all the ecosystem is kind of trying to make it really very easy for the customer to onboard. And it's like a revolution there already happened, because a lot of these softwares are able to do a facial scan, and immediately with a lot of accuracy they are able to kind of mention the blood pressure, and so without the the real blood sampling, you are able to do and know a lot of parameters about the health, and that is really helping us, because you can issue very large ticket size policies very quickly and very easily, which was earlier not there. So for every large policies we used to wait for like sometimes 7 days, 8 days to organize the medicals. Now that revolution, I mean, after that, once this person is coming in, there are in fact the AI tools which are helping, in fact, identify this whole thing much more, maybe 2 years earlier than what the incidence of, say, cancer, for example. There is a Fujifilm promoted company called Nura Diagnostic Center, which does, the radiations are like 5% of the normal radiation to do a CT scan of the whole body, and it can detect, they say that, 1 to 2 years in advance of any cancer coming into the body. So if those kind of things start coming in, they really start helping the whole ecosystem. See, this kind of identification much earlier can help prevent, and you can take precautions or get certain things done which can eliminate the disease at that incipient stage. So those things adding together to us is really helping a lot, actually. And for example, we have now developed app with the help of a lot of people sitting here. Activo is a team sitting here from Singapore. They have come out with a health score similar to what Neil mentioned right now. So if you are using your daily some smart watch or something where the data is getting captured on a daily basis, we can now issue pre-underwritten policies basis that information. So we may not require any medical or any assessment, actually, because we are already having that data and that information, because you are using that app and you are using and you are kind of submitting some kind of a data. So if you consent, the data is getting captured with us, and once you are allowing us, we send you a request that this is available, and if you want, really, you can buy it in 2 minutes. So those kind of revolution will happen on the onboarding side, I feel, and it is reducing the risk also at the same time. So it's an ease of onboarding as well as reduction in risk. It's not that you are compromising on by not doing those medical assessments and all that. So that kind of thing has started happening. On the banking side, we are trying to integrate on the mobile app on the website with our banks, so it can become very easy for our customers, because most of the customers, they use the banking app more. They don't use the insurance app. So we have to either come out and have some touch of health in that our applications, because life insurance app, you need it only after a year when you have to pay the renewals and all that. So your engagement drops after you get onboarded. So that's where I think the health nudges can become very important. If we have those kind of health nudges, that can you maintain this, or you are not, maybe this thing can go wrong, so please do that exercise or eat well or whatever. So those kind of small nudges can keep the engagement also on, and really improve the usage, and perhaps bring repeat customers also. But the bank apps are used very frequently, so we are trying to integrate more.
So integrating with the bank is sort of a major issue. Let's have a look at some of the opportunities, because I know a lot of people in the room are interested about how you might view the future and what opportunities lie. What are the opportunities in health and, in tech and data, say for the distribution side? Why don't you kick us off?
So the immediate one which is started happening, as Indraneel also mentioned, right? We are making the distribution very efficient. Right? As you all know, that insurance is a push product. So I broadly classify into 2 phases. Every sale is actually running through multiple meetings, of course, but if I can actually broadly classify that into 2 kind of parts. One is, the first part is the most difficult part, to convince the customer to buy a life insurance policy, right? It's not a pull product. You actually need multiple push to ensure that he actually is keen on buying a life insurance, and that itself is a difficult part. So if you look at the scenario some few years back, once the customer was convinced, the second part, which is the application process and the onboarding process, that itself was pretty difficult, right? So that is kind of, now we as an industry, and with actually support from a lot of you, actually solved that process. So which is basically making the distributor a lot more productive. So he is more now, actually, which is the better part, of actually convincing the customer and pitching the product more rather than the processes and the documentation piece. So that is big piece which is done. What we now need to do is also create some kind of a pull where the customer, it's not necessary that, when I say pull, I'm not meaning that it becomes a D2C, right? Even in the financial services, let's go beyond insurance. A lot of other products, people are keen on buying, but they still want assistance in which one, right? So that makes life a little easier. So the distributor doesn't have to actually convince him to buy first a life insurance product and then figure out which product, right? So at least if you can move into some kind of a pull, and that's a difficult part. So if you actually ask me, is the awareness an issue? I would say yes, but not awareness in terms of what life insurance is, but the urgency and necessity to have a life insurance, that is what is lacking. Right? How do we bring that out, and how can tech help us there? I think that's the bigger piece that we need to solve for. But from a distribution perspective, we made them more efficient. He can focus more on convincing and the interactions with the customer in terms of why and which one.
Well, that's a really interesting. Neil, what do you think about making insurance a pull product? How can it be integrated with, say, ecosystems or B2B2C partners?
I don't know how to make it a pull product because, in India where the average age is 27, I don't think anyone feels that they are ever going to pop. Or prior to COVID, they never felt that they are going to ever have a health problem also. I think things are changing, but, that's a difficult one to solve for to my mind. What I do think is a solvable problem, though, is changing the ecosystem, the distribution ecosystem from more a spray and pray strategy to a more directionally driven strategy basis, some data, some know-how about the customer that can be put together. For example, today the KYC system, the financial data systems, the health systems, over the next 2 or 3 years, I feel they are all going to connect and talk to each other, and we will have enough know-how about the customer. Of course, with consent, but we will have that know-how about the customer. The next part of the problem is how do you translate the know-how that's available about the customer into some kind of a generative prompt for the distributor to customize a pitch to the customer at the point of transaction. Because today, they have, I don't see whether it's a banking transaction, and please correct me if I am wrong, Abhay, whether it's a banking transaction or an agency-driven transaction, there is no selection-based approach. Everyone's trying out everything in all possible formats. I mean, you would be trying out a retirement solution to a 35-year-old also, or a 55-year-old also. And you can't draw a line in between where to kind of direct that effort. The same thing goes with health insurance. You would offer a 5 lakh rupees sum assured to a person who's well covered within his existing company, and you would offer the same 5 lakh rupees sum assured to a self-employed person who would have no coverage at all of his own. Now, what data is available into the system, I think, is now coming together, and the next part which is going to blow up the ecosystem is generative AI, which will get directed to the seller, where the seller at the point of transaction should be able to predict with a fair degree of certainty what to pitch, what value, what product, what pitch, to which customer. And maybe the start point of all these services will be his phone book. And that's where the process will begin, because all the contacts are all his contacts are on the phone, but he doesn't know enough about them. So can you enrich that value? Can you actually create that into a solution construct to say, forget 2,000 contacts in your room, focus on these 20, and this is the pitch that you go in, and then keep using generative AI to prompt in the sales process such that it gets to a degree of closure. We're far from there, but not that far as well, because I think this is all going to happen in the next 1 year.
So that's the great opportunity. How does it change product with the tech and data? I mean, how do you think product changes?
So, before, as Neil mentioned, that the customer can be given it in multiple ways. I mean, very customized kind of solutions can be offered. But before that, it can also assist in pricing it very dynamically, so that you can actually say that for this customer, because of that data, so even before you pitch, you know that this can be a right price. And you can have a dynamic pricing, and then the customized designs. And as you mentioned, that the ticket size or the tenure, everything can be designed in a very customized manner so the AI tools, and it can happen while you are interacting with the customer. So the seller kind of is enabled to talk to with that tool and give a real right advice. Because currently, he's perhaps getting some standard tables or standard charts or graphs, and that's why he starts the discussion with that particular thing. But now, if he has a tool which is prompting him to suggest that this perhaps can be the best solution, I think that revolution is going to, is big one, because there are a lot of salespeople around, and they are trying to do that in multiple ways. But if you see in mutual fund industry, earlier we used to feel that that is also very complex, because that's also, there are many types of funds available and how to choose. But 60% has now started shifting to online. So people here also perhaps will like to either buy online or buy through an advisor who is really well equipped and is having all these kind of wherewithals to kind of come back and advise in a much better manner. So, and that dynamic pricing, as I said, and the product designs will start becoming far, far more efficient for the customer in terms of cost and all that. At the same time, you can actually make it, because it is tailor-made, the demand side problem, which Satishwar mentions, that he feels that this pull side perhaps may start happening, because it is so customized and it is so tailor-made that maybe you identify with that. And so it may not be real pull actually, but maybe the youngsters also start understanding the importance of that, and maybe because it is so well designed for you that you feel that fine, this I can start up with immediately. Well, they also, they are saving with industries like mutual funds and all, equities and all. So why they would not feel that this is very important? So I feel that sometimes this particular youngsters team is really evolved, and they are quite knowledgeable. It is just that the manner of delivery to them has changed, and perhaps they are seeking or wanting it to be delivered in a different manner. So and I think that's where it will bring the demand back.
Thank you.
Just to add on that, so with the basically the tech availability and the data availability is now allowing us to actually go for a dynamic pricing. Okay, not just dynamic pricing at the time of inception, but attached to that wellness management. And then again, actually, and that is still not allowed per se, but with the facilities coming in, we are working towards a product where we are saying that if your wellness score is this, your premium continues to stay that way. Or at inception, you were not, and there are some lifestyle issues, right? At inception, you had certain problems, so the prices are higher. But bring your wellness score well under control, and the next year premium goes down. So we're kind of trying to attach or incentivize those angles also, so that there is some incentive to, and you need any kind of nudge to take care of your personal lifestyle kind of health, so right? So you want to add that element into this. And this is just possible because of the various data sources available, which can allow us to track him real time and give him those nudges and also incentivize him.
So are we allowed to do that now?
We are working on it, but it also needs some regulatory regime to kind of come through, because currently those dynamic pricing is not allowed.
So where are the limits to the data extract? Like, is there limits on accessing medical records? What about DNA testing? Where are we on sort of dealing with the limits to data?
So DNA testing, I'm still not sure regulatory, are we allowed to even use that from a decision-making perspective, right? So haven't explored that opportunity yet. But from a tech perspective, it's based on the pricing and the product. You can actually kind of start using the spatial thing which Indraneel spoke about, right? Which gives you some basic indicator. Now, if you actually ask me, pricing or all kind of lives can be priced, right? If you have that kind of data, it kind of comes in. Let me just give you an example. One of the biggest worries which we have is the fraud element is something which worries us more, rather than me getting a little bit of mismatch in terms of the health profile of the customer, right? For example, a dead man getting insured or a deathbed case getting insured. Now, with the help of the digital KYC, actually I am able to check that Satishwar is Satishwar. Impersonation is not possible. And Satishwar is live and kicking. Okay, he might have some internal broad issues, but at least I know that he's there, he's alive, he can speak, he can walk, right? And the way he speaks also gives me a flavor, the various pieces in terms of his heart rate and those things. That tells me that he's not suffering from something which is very grave and on a deathbed, which allows us now to actually come with a product which is an OTC issuance for a term plan, right? Give us a video, give us your KYC, give us a declaration, and that's it. You
Proof of life, it's always a good thing. Neil, where are the limits for you?
I think the biggest limits that we have today is the quality of data available on the health side. That's a big limit at this point in time. It is getting solved in some form or manner, but there's a fair distance to travel on that. For example, today, if I take health insurance as a category, one of the limits of the product itself is the claim experience that the customer has at the point of, the hospitalization. Because normally you would have a situation where the doctor on his round will come and say, go home at 11 o'clock in the morning. And despite us knowing a fair amount of people within the insurance ecosystem, none of us can probably get out of the hospital before 7 or 8 in the evening. And that's a real problem. That's a poor experience, and the customer at that point in time wants to run home, yet he's not able to do it. Now, it's not that nobody's trying to solve it. It's just that it is taking time because of the data limits that you have today. Because you have disjointed data sets. So each hospital will run its own hospital software, which will store information in a different format. They will first enter it in the hospital system. That is not enough. Then the file in a physical format moves to a TPA desk who's sitting in -1 basement of the hospital, and they will physically enter the data again. Now, even before the data set has left the hospital, you have had 2 different data sets. And then from there, it connects with the insurer, and then it goes up and down 2-3 times during the course of the day before a decision comes about. Now, what we are also trying to do as an ecosystem to solve for is, can I consume data from the hospital system itself? And at the click of a button, be able to process the data and do everything that is going to happen in the process, whether it is hospital medical coding, whether it is hospital contract management, whether it is all kinds of fraud analytics that one needs to run to process the claim, and the policy checks before it comes to a decision. But that should not happen in 8 hours. What we are all trying to solve for is to happen in 15 minutes. And where the health stack in India is going over the next 4-5 years, I think that will be fairly well populated, where the customer on his hospital bed, as soon as the doctor tells him go home, should be able to authenticate sharing of his medical records with an OTP. And that should move through the entire system in a flash, produce the decision such that before he comes down from his room to the billing station, he should be out of the hospital. That's where we are trying to get to. By doing this, I think what's going to happen is a positive word of mouth will start spreading. And that will help the category and everyone in the business. Because today, there are enough naysayers of the category itself, because people who undergo the process of a claim seem to carry a negative experience at the point of claim. So data will solve this problem. I'm absolutely certain. I think all of us are building towards it, and God willing, we shall get there.
Good, thank you. Any more to say on limits?
Very well summarized, that the health stack is yet to come up and in full force. And I think once that comes up, I think a lot of these issues will not be there. People are looking at much living longer. If you see, the average longevity in India is increasing day by day, and I think will require a lot of solutions around long-term care and all. So pricing of all those products will become easier if the data availability and the sharing. I feel the data is available, as I mentioned. It is just the problem of sharing, and sharing it in the right manner. And maybe the interfaces are also sometimes, as Neil mentioned, that interfaces are different with the TPA or with the hospital and with the insurers. But that can come together very easily. Actually, the interfaces can be brought together very easily to make those processes very smooth. I mean, he's very right when he mentions that it takes too much of time. But perhaps that is more of the problem on the willingness side to share information quickly and to make use of that, rather than the problem with the technology. So I think, but once we start sharing it, I think that health stack automatically comes into force, because currently it is there with us, but it is split across hospitals or diagnostic centers or the TPAs or the insurance companies. But once they say that fine, we can all bring it together and not use it negatively to say people exclude people, but rather to maybe you can start with saying that let us use it for the benefit of people without creating hassles for people. So that we can still and that kind of ethical norms can still be there, where people don't use it in a negative fashion. So I mean, genome testing is not there, but people, I think, and that's not even required actually. I felt that, with the current information available, we can still do a great quality of underwriting, but if it is shared properly, there is no need to further ask for any examination.
Okay, thank you. Look, I'm just going to turn down. Is there one burning question in the audience here? Does someone have a question? There's hands up there. Is there a mic going to this person? Thank you. No mic going to that person. This mic's going to that person.
Thank you. So I am Swarnindu. I work with a startup called IHX. I had a few questions. So you mentioned about health stack, the problem with healthcare data access. Right now, NHA is building the national health stack. One part, Health Information Exchange, is already in the market. Now, NH6 is also already coming up, National Health Claim Exchange, which IID has already mandated all the health insurance companies to be part of. Now, what is your thought from an insurance company, life insurance point of view? Is it going to be helpful? There is enough optimism about it, or do you think there is something else also required on top of it?
I think it's a very good question, because there are a lot of initiatives in that direction already. So I feel that, once we make it like not a mandatory, but a important routine to kind of share, say, your Aadhaar number when you are going to a doctor. I mean, and the doctor, in many countries it is there. The doctor will not prescribe medicine and will not do an assessment till you have given your complete details. So here, we buy sometimes medicines through the drug store without kind of really having the prescription or really sharing all the details. So it is not really getting captured in that sense. So all the data is not fully getting captured. Whatever is getting captured is not being shared in the right manner and not being brought together. I think that's the problem, but gradually people have started pushing for it, and in some way we'll find a solution, because it's very scattered and very spread out. So sometimes people have their own family doctors, so they don't feel that that's an important thing to share or need to share. But once we feel that this can help us, then only people will start sharing. So we have to kind of first understand as to how it can be useful for people, rather than becoming a negative for people, because data can be misused, and people are worried about that, and that's why they don't share. And they feel that it can go against us. So why we should be disclosing so much? So I think that, I feel that the whole advancement in technology can lead to a much higher longevity. I mean, I feel that all the development in science has been around physics and chemistry maybe, but now biology will be the biggest beneficiary, I feel, of the entire AI revolution. And once this longevity is increasing, people would like to share then that information, because it will help them live longer and live healthier. So those discoveries will become very easy, because AI tools, once they start recognizing the patterns, they start helping you to understand what can go wrong in the future. And then you'll say that, fine, I can share that information.
Because there's a big gap here, right? Longevity here is about, on average, 70 years of age. If I take it from Hong Kong, it's currently 85. There's a 15-year gap just on longevity issues here, which is an opportunity for real improvement for the Indian marketplace. Well,
just on this one, so we are very optimistic about it, and I'm actually very much looking forward to this whole health records coming online. So Abhay is the piece. What we are now trying to do is incentivize it in a way that, in case if there is records available, because currently the number of records available within that is very, very limited. It's other than your the COVID vaccination thing, not much of data is there. But as a part of the buying journey, we want to incentivize it if there is an Abhay record available, right? So one, we will waive off the medicals. Plus, because we're waiving off the medical, that discounts get passed on to you. So we are working on that kind of a proposition, which initially I don't think it will have too many takers, because naturally the records are not yet there. But in case if this is one way of incentivizing people to, rather than compelling them, incentivizing them to start uploading their data, and which helps, right? On their own personal front also it helps. So that's another approach which we are looking at. But it's a wonderful thing to happen.
I think on this specific question, there is one challenge that we as a country I think we do face. There are about 80,000 hospitals in the country. And unless and until that ecosystem is stitched together, this data flow will be a little bit of a problem. Now, out of those 80,000 hospitals, only about 1,000 hospitals are belonging to the large hospital category. Then about another 5,000-7,000 are middle level hospitals. And then there is a long tail of small hospitals. Now, the final 30, 40,000 hospitals still write out bills by hand. And one of the challenges when we were building our hospital tool was to really be able to pick up from the handwritten bill and classify it in a medical coding system that the country specifies. Now, with ABDM, with Abhay that's come in, they are also providing some medical solutions to be used by the hospitals as well, which have pre-integrated with ABDM. But the challenge is the hospitals themselves see no incentive of picking it up. End of the day, it's a 30, 40, 50,000 rupees cost for the hospital, which the smaller hospitals are unwilling to kind of take up. And that's a resistance that the entire ecosystem faces, because unless and until we tie the ecosystem in together, even if it gets implemented in 1,000 hospitals, it will really not serve the country's problem. And one of the things that we are also actively consulting with the NHA and its officials is to see what can we do as InsurTechs, where we have interests on the insurance side, but the healthcare side is the bigger beneficiary if all of this does happen. And we are trying to figure out what can we do to incentivize hospitals in the last 30, 40,000 hospitals to pick up a NHA integrated solution. The answers are still not clear, but it's a discovery process that we are all walking on.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard the wisdom of this panel. Please thank them for their contribution today.